Hello everyone. So we're going to be going over variables today in Java. Basically, with a variable, you're storing a value under a different name. You're going to be giving it a new name to refer to some static value or maybe even a dynamic value once we get into more complex code. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyways, to actually declare a variable in Java, you have to first start with the data type. Now, there are a lot of fundamental data types in Java, and we've already even created a data type, and we'll get into that later, but for now, it's okay for you guys to know that our data type is called salmon, and we'll, again, get into how that all works later on. Some of the basic ones are int, long, double, float, char, or char, it's char, and I'll explain why later, string, and that is it. I don't believe I left anything out. If I did, we'll probably get to it later on when I realize it. So an integer will hold simply an integer, a number that has no decimal or trailing value after it. It will have no fractional part. So for example, int x equals 10. A long is a number which can equal a very huge number. There's actually size limitations on all data types, including long, by the way, but long is one of the bigger ones. An integer, for example, like x, has a smaller value than long, and it's this one is what we would call 4 bytes in size, and it's still a pretty big number, and we're not going to get into specifics right now, but it's pretty large. Long, however, is sometimes 10 to 12 bytes in size, depending if you're using like 32-bit or 64-bit operating systems. And again, we're not going to get into specifics because it's giant, and you'll probably never really need to use that. And if you find that you're not getting the right numbers with integer, start using long. So we can do like L is equal to like a huge number and then a capital L at the end, denoting that it's a long number. Double is also the same size as long, but it's used to store decimal numbers, numbers that have a fractional part to them. So for example, we can say DL is equal to 3.6985231, or 5, because I didn't actually type 1. And FL is equal to the same thing, but it's actually smaller than a double, just like how integer is smaller than a long, a float is smaller than a double. And so we're pretty much just going to leave this out for now because we'll just make the video longer if we have to do something that's pretty much the same thing. Again, it's smaller though, so you can't hold as many decimal numbers in there, and I believe the limit is like 5 before it starts to screw up. Char actually holds a character value, which is why it's called char and not char, because it's not a character, it's a character. It's char. There are going to be people who argue with that too. Anyways, you're going to say C is equal to something like a capital A, and you denote a character by using single quotation marks, these apostrophes around it. And this is a big difference, and I'll show you why now that we're going into string. If we do str equals a string, which is basically a string of characters, which is why it's called a string, like word, you want to use double quotations to notify that it's a string of characters. If you try to put multiple characters in single quotations, it's not going to work. And that is because of the inner workings of Java. If you look here and you see that each of these data types is purple except for string, there's a reason for that. String is its own class, just like salmon is a class. And so it's not actually a native data type. These other ones are supported no matter what, because they're native to Java. This one is something that has been programmed in. Therefore, it's not a native data type like these ones. And now, see, excuse me, if it's not a native data type, it's not stored like these ones. And this, again, goes into the inner workings of Java. And you may remember that you have a JVM installed on your computer, a Java virtual machine, where all of your code is ran in Java, which is also one of the reasons why Java is slow is because it's restricted to only operating within RAM. So if it's not native, it's not actually stored like these ones. These ones all have static values. 10 is 10. This huge long number is just this huge long number. This string though, word, is not a static value. This actually has a location in your RAM. Inside of your physical memory, there is a location where this is going to be stored when we run our program. And this is a big deal because if we change this to like a capital A, and when we get into conditional statements, I'll explain excuse me, I'll explain and show why these are not the same value, and it's all because of the string and this character. These are completely different values, and it becomes a huge issue in Java, and it's one of the most amazing things that I've ever learned because of Java. It will seriously blow your mind when we get into it. Anyways, change that back to Word, and again, when we get into conditionals, we'll cover that, because it is freaking awesome how all that works. Java's not my favorite language, but it's one of the coolest things about this language, even though it's not, like, the most amazing and practical thing about Java. Anyways, so let's actually system out these values. So let's do X. The other one's L. I'm just going to copy and paste this because I'm lazy. And we will put DL, C, DLC, and str for string. Sorry about that. And so let's actually run this program and see what this prints out. So, okay. And if we go down here, we see everything that we had as a value printed out. And so, if you still don't understand what variables are, it's the same thing as in like algebra, basic algebra. If you say x equals something, that's what x will equal. All you have to do is just say like what type this variable is. So for example, we could say like m equals str, and that's completely fine, but we have to specify that it is a string. That's the only stipulation, but other than that, works the same way as algebra. And then of course you gotta like end your statement with a semicolon, because programming, and as we can see right here, put an M, the program runs just as we expected, str. So if you guys have any questions about these, feel free to ask. Again, I can't wait until we get into conditionals and start comparing these things so I can explain how all of this works, because it is literally the most epic thing about Java. And it's not really even just about Java, it's about how a computer works. It's really exciting. I know I sound like a nerd, and oh, excuse me, my voice cracked. I sound like a nerd, and I am a nerd, but it's awesome, and I hope you guys will enjoy it too when we get to it. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. All the subscribe and like stuff that I usually say at the end of my videos, and as always, I'll see you next time. Bye.